We're going to talk about free speech. This is an extraordinary situation, Russell. I'm still with Russell Quirk, of course. Bridget Phillipson, the Education Secretary. Now, the Tories have put in place. It was all set to become a law. All it needed was the final tick. It had been all but enacted. It was the Free Speech Act, enshrining free speech at university campuses. So visitors, people speaking there. Basically, it said, as long as what you're saying is not illegal, not inciting harm or violence, you must be allowed to speak at British universities, because they are, of course, a forum for open debate, or they should be. Why do you think she's revoked that? She's cancelled that. 500 academics, including professors, very high doctors, etc., have written to her to say, what on earth do you think you're playing at? She denounced the Free Speech on Campuses Act as not fit for purpose. Why would she not want free speech on campuses?
I think there might be a couple of reasons, Kev. I think it's fairly obvious 8 or 9 weeks into this government that they don't believe in free speech. Why don't people that don't believe in free speech don't believe in free speech because they know that they can't win the argument. So if you are worried about your argument not winning, your response, and we go back to the 1930s in Germany and many other instances, your response then is to cancel, to censor, to prohibit. It's Orwellian, right? So that's one of the reasons.
Exactly right,
That's one of the reasons. I think the other reason is, of course, we all know that a lot of these university campuses, whether it be students, whether it be lecturers, whether it be members of the faculty, whether it be members of the educational authority, they are, by definition, they're left-wing. So I guess there's an element of pandering here by the Education Secretary, Bridget Phillipson, where she just wants to keep her buddies on side. But we should be very concerned about this because...
Absolutely, it's a massive story.
This channel, and probably this channel only, frankly, has been the bastion of promoting free speech above and beyond everything else that's happening in this country right now, where people are going to prison for voicing an opinion. Some are going to prison for saying the wrong thing and inciting. I accept that, but many people, I think, would agree that a lot of these people that are going to prison for saying things on social media are being dished out to harsher sentences. So we're part of the way down that road. I think of all places in the world where free speech should be enshrined and encouraged, has to be in our education system, particularly at that level, university level. How can we have critical thinking people in the future, as lawyers, accountants, doctors, whoever, if at university they're taught that if you don't like something because of the hurty words, you don't have to listen to it. We're going to ban that nasty people. We're not going to have Jordan Peterson and Douglas Murray and people like that coming into the campus because they might say something that upsets you.
Might say something right-wing.
Yes.
Can't have that.
Or they might say something that you can't disagree with through logic.
They might support Israel.
They might. But they also might be right. We don't want that, do we?
This is the Higher Education Freedom of Speech Act. It was supposed to come in at the start of August. This woman, Bridget Phillipson, immediately cancelled it. She said it wasn't fit for purpose, but 500 academics have condemned them for scrapping this vital law, they say. They include the evolutionary biologist Richard Dawkins and the famous historian Niall Ferguson. I mean, this is really, really worrying. The Committee for Academic Freedom, the director of that, a guy called Edward Skidelsky, he states the decision to halt the Higher Education Freedom of Speech Act appears to reflect the view widespread among opponents of the Act that there is no free speech problem in UK universities. That very idea of such a problem is a fiction about to divert from bigger issues. Nothing could be more false. Hundreds of academics and students have been hounded, censured, silenced and even sacked over the last 20 years for the expression of legal opinions. And he's right, you know.
We see it all the time. People are cancelled left, right and centre just because a few stinky lefties outside that particular, college hall decide that they don't want to hear someone with whose views they disagree. It's sinister.
It certainly is. Now, we're going to go to break again now. When we come back, we're going to talk about wannabe Tory leader Tom Tugendhat, always going on about being a military man and all that. He has come up with a great plan to solve our migrant crisis. The thing is, though, I've read into it. I can't make head nor tail of it. We'll talk about it. He wants to bring in the Navy, but I'm not sure if he wants to bring in the Navy. God knows what it's all about. But we'll discuss discuss the latest solution from our Tory heroes to the migrant crisis when we come back. Before we do, let me ask you, what do you think of Labour scrapping an act of Parliament that all it was going to do was enshrine freedom of speech on university campuses? In other words, if you wanted to talk, make a speech or be invited to a university to make a speech, as long as the opinions you are making were not illegal, in terms of inciting violence, you know, if maybe even hate crime, you know, too racist or anything like that. As long as what you were saying was legal, the Higher Education Freedom of Speech Act was going to enshrine your right to do that. Bridget Phillipson, the Education Secretary, has cancelled that. Why? Why would she do that? Don't you find that sinister?